Hey guys, welcome to another INTJ and INFP coffee episode. As per the Socionics theory, the superego block is like listed, well, it's like first your first two functions which correspond to the MBTI, and then it's like the superego block. Then it's like your third and fourth MBTI functions, and then it's like that other block which I do not remember the name of, but...
Like the super id and id or whatever.
Okay, so anyways, I guess our take on Socionics is that you don't really have those functions, but you might experience the lack of them in different ways. And I think for me, it almost seemed like I experienced the lack of my superego functions, which for me would be SI and FE, before I fully developed FI and SE and realized I'm better suited to do, like, I guess, value-based things or like sensory things in that modality as opposed to like the superego block modality. So I just wanted to talk about how this makes sense for me, see if it also, this pattern could extend to you, and I would love to hear in the comments what you guys think about this too.
Yeah, so basically for the superego functions, they're supposed to be the ones that you, well, I guess they say it's subconscious, but we think you don't really have them and you're more self-conscious about not having these functions than not having the other two that you also don't have.
Right.
Yeah, so for me, it would be like, supposedly, I would be growing up being really self-conscious that I don't have any TI and SE. And the way that I'm supposed to combat that with our theory is that you're supposed to develop your SI and TE to compensate for that and feel better about this insecurity.
Growing up, I always thought that I had to kind of internalize things in order to be able to do things. Like I had to internalize the steps which you take in order to do a task, or like, remember the specific order of things, or like the methodology behind things. So I kind of like, I couldn't naturally retain that sort of information very well. So I kind of did feel insecure about like, oh, I'm like insufficient in this way. Like I did this thing maybe like 2 weeks ago and I don't remember every specific thing to do it again like properly. Also kind of, I think maybe this manifests in like not remembering specific details about like the people in your life who you're close to. I guess this might also kind of bleed into FE a little bit as well, in that like maybe remembering such things kind of might show that you like care about them or something like that, but like remembering specific things that they like and want, or like maybe something that they said once, like I usually would struggle with that a little bit and then feel kind of bad when I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I probably should have remembered that, or I felt like I should have remembered that, but maybe I didn't.
Oh, it's kind of interesting. I should probably respond since I have the opposite one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like for SE, I feel like it's quite obvious when you lack SE. It's kind of like this general unawareness of the external concrete world. So this can manifest in like being bad at some physical activities, but not necessarily. It's just more like the stereotypical like absent-mindedness. And for me, like combined with low TE, also translated to like awkwardness and using like new tools, which has made my life like significantly more difficult. Like I just forgot to do the audio recorder for like one of our recordings because I just don't remember to like take control of external objects. That like eludes me. It's like such a big bother, but I think the way to strengthen or feel better about that is like by strengthening SI. I feel like with every external concrete thing, if you just repeatedly expose yourself to it, it will somehow become like a SI symbolic thing that you just retain. And yeah, actually, I was like, well, when you said the methodology thing, because that actually helps me.
Right.
Like, if I can just retain the methodology, the steps, over and over again, then the thing becomes less intimidating to me and I can actually use it.
Right. Yeah, that's so cool. I guess one more thing I had was that sometimes I also can't remember specific information to support like whatever idea I'm talking about. I guess this like I'm no longer really that conscious about it, but like this happens a lot even between us sometimes. I'm just like talking about some general vague NI pattern in my life and you're like, oh, can you like give me an example of that? And I'm like, nope. Not, like trying my hardest to like reach into like the depths of my memory, and I'm like, oh gosh, no. So sometimes I think that made me feel like a little bit sheepish. Like maybe like earlier in my life I was like, oh, does that mean I'm just like making things up, or like, I don't know. I don't know. I felt like, whoa, I'm talking about this thing and I don't even remember what specific, information supported that thing. And yeah, so I guess the way to like combat this is like, yeah, that I have SE and I can use SE in place of these supposed SI things that I felt like I should do. So I think the big thing is that I don't need to retain info. I can just like relieve myself from that duty.
Yeah,
and
plus like whatever pattern you came up with, you'll keep encountering examples of that in real time. So
yeah. So I guess like, yeah, it was empowering for me to realize like, oh, I can just interact with the world when I need something. Like I don't have to internalize the steps. I can just like go, and if I like mess up the steps, like that's okay. I'll figure it out in real time, because I think SE is a lot more contextual in that sense. So it's like the strength of SE probably is more adept at like being able to manipulate things or like figure out what the next progressive step would be in real time, as opposed to like SI. Maybe SI, like having those sort of steps is more helpful for you. Yeah, I guess like
it's more like control. I think if the thing becomes internalized, it feels like there's slightly more control, because when you lack extroverted sensing, it's almost like objects are almost like intimidating.
Yeah.
Like people with stronger SI probably don't really experience this as much because it's more prevalent. That they have like a way, like they have a way of interacting with. Yeah, it's the way. It's not the thing. It's the way. They have like a way of interacting with everything. But for me, I need repeated exposure and like a constant effort to find the way. Otherwise, the thing is just like, how do I use it?
Right. Yeah, and I think I just maybe need to give myself more time allowance. So it's like, okay, I'm probably going to make some mistakes because I don't remember the entire methodology, but that's okay. I'll like eventually with the SE contextual data, I'll like figure out a way to like get to the end point that I want to get to. I think I didn't realize how much I can actually be responsive to things in real time. Like I do an art form where it's like fluid acrylics. So you have like a pretty short time frame with which you can manipulate the paint to get it to do what you want. And I think when I first approached it, I was like, okay, I have to figure out the steps to do to like get this down pat so I can make a good piece every time. And then I realized like, oh, actually, if I just like observe what is happening, then I know what the next step might be. And every time the next step will probably be a little bit different based on like the needs at the moment. But I'm actually pretty good at like being able to just observe and know what the next step is. So I was like, wow, I have so much power in my SE. I didn't even realize it. And the other thing that I think also empowered me was that like, I think this kind of goes back to a video we also filmed about how we conceptualize time. But like people on the NI-SE axis need to like go through life to find meaning. And so sometimes I might have like an SE experience that I haven't had repeated yet. So I'm not sure if there will be like an NI meaning to extract from it. But then I keep note of it and I write it down so that later I can refer to it and see if I did have other instances.
Wait, I have like a side question that may or may not be included, but like, do you ever find meaning from art? Like not just like meaning within the art, but like to apply to your life?
Like my art or like just art in general?
Like art, writing, movies, like...
To apply to my life?
Like find that your life has meaning based on some sort of parallel between your life and this art.
I mean, maybe I find resonance sometimes, but I think... I think it's more real life that I find meaning from. Sometimes it's like, it's really cool when maybe there's a piece of art that has arrived to like the same NIFI thing that I have arrived from my own experience, and then it's like, ooh, we're similar in that sense, but I don't think, maybe art is more enlightening and like seeing other people's experience, and that's sometimes interesting, but I don't think it really affects my own.
Like I actually have time collections or like the snapshots or whatever of me experiencing different art for the first time or whatever, and that actually contributes to like my general meaning of life or who I am as a person.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, I guess like having this collection of like my SE experiences written down somewhere so that I can actually retain this information if it might come in useful later really helps me, since I don't have that like internal SI database to like kind of refer back to, I guess. I also felt like I had to maybe interact with people more like in an FE way. Like I think I also felt that I had to kind of understand the outcome of my actions or my words, or like how other people perceive it. But then I was like not always super great at that, so I felt kind of bad if like I faltered in that respect. Saying the appropriate thing at the appropriate time. Like, I think I realized that I can actually be aware of when I need to like say or do a certain kind of thing that might make that like it's an appropriate time where that person needs me to say this thing so they will, you know, feel better about something in the situation. So I can be aware of those instances, but then I don't know what the appropriate thing is to say in those instances, and so I might let that slide, or I might kind of stumble over my words or something. I think I used to think that my career also has to have external merit in an FE way, and that I was like looking for the career that would have the most like FE value in like a societal sense.
Whoa, interesting. I don't think I ever had that.
Yeah, but that could probably be like a parenting thing. I'll admit to that one. Yeah, so then I realized I can actually like just rely on my own FI internal framework in such interactions, and I think I could still be just as like nice, or even probably more so, because I know how to like use my FI properly, and I have like no idea how to use FE very well. Yeah, so I can set internal guidelines for like how I want to act, and maybe try my best to make sure that the other person understands what I'm trying to communicate. And as long as I kind of like stick to like the internal guideline about that, I think things generally go better for me within social situations. And I think I communicate what I feel like I need to. And I think I just come off kind of almost counterintuitively. I come off in a more happy FE way, because I am happy that I'm sticking with my FI, you know, principles, and then that's like come off as happy and chirpy, and then that the, you know, if it's a potential FE user I'm communicating to, then that I think happiness would, you know, communicate to them that like I'm authentic and I like being with you. Whereas if I'm struggling trying to do the proper FE thing, I might be able to like kind of.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you like struggled with that, because I don't think I ever made a point to be more FE.
Yeah.
And
and you have an, you know, FE dominant parent as well, right? So
yeah, and it's weird because I seriously got a comment on the other day that like they need to work on their social skills. They meaning us. I'm like, I like FE has been, I don't have it, but I don't think I've ever been like, oh my god, I don't have it. I've always been kind of okay with it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting that that was like a sore spot for you. But okay, moving on to like the TE thing. I've struggled with figuring out how I tried to use TI. I was like, is this really something I was insecure about? And then like suddenly it hit me that when I was a kid, I always really wanted to know if what I valued made sense for me to value. Not like if everyone else values it or not, or if it's the right thing to value in society, but like if it made sense for me personally to value it.
Right.
Like, so it's like a weird TI thing, or like a self-referential logic TI thing, but I could never figure it out. Like I was like, okay, I value this. Is it right for me to value it? And I never knew, like there was never a metric to determine that.
Right.
And it was always like this weird thing of like, am I going through life like blind because I can't, like, yeah. So I was like, yeah, you know what? That probably is the insecurity about TI thing. Because I could never figure it out, but then now I think that I think it's just something I worry about less, because like, okay, if I value it and it's feasible to do logically in the external world, it is good enough. Yeah, like if there is a way to manifest it in an extroverted thinking way, is like fine. Like, you know, you're not gonna get into jail. Right. You're not gonna kill people. That's a good enough value. Like, I don't have to like figure out some sort of like introverted logic way that this value is correct for me. That was like never gonna work out for me, I guess, because TI and FI are like too oppositional.
Yeah. So I guess the takeaway of this was that like, I think once I realized that I actually was sort of like entrapping myself into like doing things in an, you know, supposedly SI or FE way when I couldn't really have those functions to actually use, it was like so liberating to be like, oh, I have FI and SE and I can actually do this like way better and like the same, you know, to the same end result really. So it was just something that I thought was interesting for me. So I thought if you guys related to that, that would be really cool. So yeah, for sure, let us know in the comments if that theory fits with your personality type and your experience. So we offer typing services, which you guys can check out at cognitiveaid.com, which we do on objective measures. So feel free to check that out. And we also have a Patreon page where we offer exclusive perks for you guys. So you can check that out in the link below as well. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.